Bubble Witch Podcast. Episode 4. Rest is part of the season. Welcome back, friends. I'm glad you're here. Wherever you're listening from today, I hope you found yourself a comfortable place to land for a little while. Maybe you're working on a craft project. Maybe you're taking a walk. Maybe you're sitting quietly with a cup of tea and a few precious moments of peace before the next thing on your list starts demanding attention. However you arrived, welcome. Last time, we talked about why bubbles matter, about temporary beauty, about wonder, about noticing the things that don't last forever and appreciating them while they're here. Today, I want to talk about something that may be even harder for many of us than noticing joy. Rest. Now, rest sounds like a simple subject. After all, everyone likes rest, at least in theory. But I've noticed something interesting. Most people don't actually struggle with resting. Most people struggle with allowing themselves to rest. There's a difference. Because somewhere along the way, many of us learned that rest is something we earn, something that happens after the work is finished, after the house is clean, after the emails are answered, after the laundry is folded, after the project is completed, after the obligations are handled, after we've finally done enough. The problem is that enough has a funny way of moving. The work is rarely finished. The list keeps growing. The chores reproduce when nobody is looking. Projects multiply in the dark like particularly ambitious rabbits. And if rest only comes after everything is done, then rest never arrives. At least, not for long. We end up treating ourselves like machines that should always be producing, always improving, always moving, always accomplishing. And then we wonder why we're exhausted. The truth is, humans were never meant to function that way. Nature certainly doesn't. The seasons don't. A garden doesn't produce tomatoes 12 months a year. Trees don't grow continuously without pause. Animals rest. Fields rest. The land itself rests. Every natural cycle includes periods of activity and periods of recovery, movement and stillness, growth and restoration. Yet for some reason, humans often act as though needing rest is a personal failure, as though exhaustion is evidence of dedication, as though burnout is somehow noble. I don't believe that. In fact, one of the reasons the gathering season includes an in-between week is because I needed a reminder that rest is part of the cycle too. Not an interruption, not a reward, not something that happens if there's time left over. Part of the cycle. The in-between week exists because celebration takes energy. Creating takes energy. Showing up takes energy. Living takes energy. And before we rush into the next season, the next goal, the next project, we deserve a little space to breathe, a little space to recover, a little space to simply be. I was thinking about that recently after Fairy Fest. If you've listened to the last episode, you know Fairy Fest involved 5 hours of bubbles in the rain, 5 hours of standing outside as Pixie the Bubble Raccoon while making bubbles. Giant bubbles, and even fog bubbles, in weather that really had no business cooperating. It was wonderful. It was magical. It was exhausting. And when it was over, there was a part of me that immediately wanted to move on to the next thing, the next project, the next idea, the next thing to make. Because creative people are often very good at generating new projects. Sometimes a little too good. But another part of me knew I needed to stop for a moment, to sit down, to drink some tea, to admire the creature tails and ears that had somehow become actual finished projects, to appreciate what had happened before immediately racing toward what was next. And honestly, that pause mattered. Not because I accomplished a project during it, because I didn't. The pause mattered because recovery matters. The funny thing is, I've noticed that we're often much kinder about rest when it comes to other people. If a friend tells us they're exhausted, we don't usually respond with, "Have you considered doing more?" We tell them to rest, to take care of themselves, to slow down, to be gentle with themselves. But when it's our own exhaustion, suddenly the rules change. We tell ourselves we should be doing more, working harder, getting ahead, catching up, being productive, as though we're somehow supposed to earn the same kindness we would freely offer someone else. I've never really understood that. Because if rest is necessary for the people we love, why would it be unnecessary for us? If recovery is important for everyone else, why would we be the exception? The truth is, most of us are carrying more than we realize. Responsibilities, worries, decisions, appointments, plans, the constant background noise of modern life. And sometimes we're so busy carrying everything that we don't even notice how heavy it has become. That's why I think small moments of rest matter, not because they solve everything, but because they give us a chance to set some of that weight down for a little while, to breathe, to recover, to remember that being human was never supposed to feel like an endurance contest. I think that's something many of us forget. Rest is not the absence of productivity. Rest is maintenance. The same way sleep is maintenance. The same way food is maintenance. The same way joy is maintenance. Human beings require recovery, not because we're weak, because we're human. And humans are wonderfully complicated creatures. We need beauty. We need connection. We need wonder. And sometimes we need naps. The Bubble Witch Constitution doesn't say that every day must be magical. It doesn't say every day must be productive. It doesn't say every day must be meaningful. Some days are for gathering. Some days are for creating. Some days are for celebrating. And some days are for sitting quietly with a cup of tea while absolutely nothing remarkable happens. Those days count too. In fact, those days may be part of what makes the remarkable days possible. I think one of the kindest things we can do for ourselves is stop treating rest as something that has to be justified. You don't have to earn every moment of peace. You don't have to complete every task before you're allowed to recover. You don't have to prove you're tired enough. Sometimes you just simply need a moment. And that is reason enough. Maybe that's the invitation this week. Not to accomplish more. Not to optimize your routine. Not to become a better version of yourself. Just to notice where you might need a little breathing room, a little recovery, a little softness. Not because you have to earn it, because you're human, and humans need rest. Before we go, let's pull a tiny season 10 card. Here we go. This week's card is a rest card. Watch bubbles drift until your shoulders soften. I think this may be one of the most Bubble Witch cards in the entire deck, because it isn't asking you to accomplish anything. It isn't asking you to improve yourself. It isn't asking you to be productive. It's simply inviting you to notice, to pause, to breathe, to watch something beautiful for a few moments, and to pay attention to what happens inside you. I love that the card doesn't say, "Watch bubbles for 5 minutes," or "Watch bubbles and achieve enlightenment." It simply says, "Watch bubbles drift until your shoulders soften, until your body remembers that it doesn't have to carry everything all at once, until you unclench a little, until you breathe a little deeper, until you remember that rest doesn't always have to be complicated. Sometimes rest is simply allowing yourself a moment of softness. So this week, if you can, Spend a little time watching bubbles drift and see if your shoulders soften too. Until next time, take gentle care of yourself during the gathering season, and I'll meet you again somewhere between the bubbles and the tea.